Hello, myself MP Misra, Faculty, School of Computer and Information Sciences. Welcome you again in this new video session. In this session, we will be discussing about some memory related concepts, that is related to primary memory and then related to I/O devices. As in previous session, we have discussed about that what actually computer is, what is the role of the CPU, what are the different components of the CPU, and we have seen that how control unit help us in performing different kind of activities, and how actually control unit is helping the whole system like a nervous system in our body, and in that way how CPU closely communicate or share information with primary storage or primary memory. Because as we have mentioned or we have discussed, and we know that whatever is being processed by a computer system, that to be loaded into primary memory first and then that is executed. So whether it is our operating system, whether it is our application program, or whether it is our some kind of data on which some application program are going to be performed, all those things as per the specific need and requirements are loaded into the primary memory, and from there they are executed. So it means if something is not required in the primary memory, that also should be shifted or should be moved to secondary memory. So this shifting of information or data from one memory to another memory, that is from primary memory to some secondary memory, continuously keep on taking place, or it continuously, this is the continuous process which is performed in the computer system while processing. And one more real life example you can take, for example, suppose you are using a computer system for browsing purpose. So some browsing information you are accessing, so in that case that particular application to be loaded in your system, and whatever input you are giving, that input also should be reached to the main memory, and from there it will be fetched, and accordingly the control unit and other unit like logical processing unit, or that is arithmetic logic unit, will be performing the operations. And before I move to the memory part, again let me repeat one basic concepts of the computer working and how actually we perform the monitoring of the quality of the computer. How we say that this computer is very fast, this computer is performing proper operations, or very large scientific applications are being executed on this particular computer efficiently. So for that, the speed of the computer is the key parameter which is used. So on the basis of that, or the processor speed or the CPU speed, you judge the quality of the computer system. So that is one of the quality judgment parameter. And as far as memory is concerned, we all know, because since beginning we are trying to emulate the computer system or computer with our human body. So as we have stated that our CPU is like brain of the computer system, and inside the CPU we are having control unit, that is like nervous system of our body. So in that way, memory is also like the memory we are having in our brain, and that particular memory does what? We all know memory is very important. Without memory we cannot have anything, we cannot repeatedly gain that particular information. So memory is kind of storage location or storage device. So we can define memory as a unit which is a kind of electronic device which hold data and instruction for the purpose of processing. So data and instructions are entered into computer memory through the input devices. So input devices are the source of data in terms of providing that particular data. So through some communication, whether wired or wireless communication, the input devices will be communicating that particular to the computer system, and that will be kept at two places. One is if you are keeping for permanent storage, so you will be using a permanent storage in terms of the secondary storage. There you will be storing your application as well as data, and at the time of execution you will be keeping those things loaded into your main memory, and from there it will be executed. So we can see memory in two aspects. One is the memory which is used for the execution of the instructions and for keeping of the data, and other for the storing of the data for the longer use. You will be coming across different kind of memory management mechanism during this particular course, especially in the coming weeks, and there you will be learning about how actually different kind of memory is used for the different purposes and what is the memory hierarchy. And as I mentioned, the memory keeps all the software including the operating system. And about operating system, you will be learning little bit, or you will be exposed to operating system concept in the 4th week, and in that particular week you will be learning about different softwares including the basic softwares which are used, and then you will be learning about different application softwares as well as operating system. So there also you will see that there are a lot of functionalities of different kind of softwares, and especially operating system which is responsible of overall management of the computer system. So that particular also needs a lot of memory, and it need to be loaded into the system for performing the operation. Now one question arises here, that if computer is not on, then how once we are switching on the machine or switching on that particular computer, it will start execution, and from where this particular computer will get some kind of instruction to boot itself. Booting process means the starting of the computer and loading the basic required software into the main memory. In general, you can take booting like this, that you are switching on your machine and your machine starts, it performs certain operation, and then on the basis of that it loads certain application in your main memory, and your computer is now ready to perform different kind of operations. It means there are some mechanism to be there, or there is some mechanism available in the computer system by which something permanently is stored, and that is available there as soon as you switch on your machine. Those permanently stored instructions or permanently stored programs start executing, and they perform some basic operation of the booting of the system, and on the basis of that your system become ready for performing the future operation, like loading some specific application into the memory and then performing different operation on the basis of the instructions given in that particular. So memory can be seen in two ways, or we can broadly see the memory in two categories. One is the RAM. RAM is that memory which is used for loading the application or loading the program and data into that memory. RAM is part of main memory, or it is a main memory. And similarly, one more memory is there, that is known as ROM, that is known as read-only memory. This ROM is a kind of memory for which I am talking about, that it is having some set of instructions which is already having some code written on it, and it cannot be rewritten. It is permanently available on that. So that is provided by either manufacturer of that particular specific computer system, or that is being provided by some specific agencies which are providing some kind of support services or some kind of peripheral services to your computer system to perform different kind of operations. So broadly you can here note down that there are two type of memory, especially in main memory we are talking about two type of memory. One is RAM, that is random access memory, and second is ROM. Both are having feature of accessing the different kind of information and processing it, but ROM is having the code written on it and it is permanently stored. And as far as RAM is concerned, later on in this discussion we will be talking about that there is a kind of memory which keep or sustain the information till the power supply remains in the system. As soon as power supply of the system is terminated or interrupted, the content of that memory disappear, and that particular memory is RAM, and that RAM memory content cannot be permanently stored. So either if you want something at the time of performing the basic operation of initiation of the computer system or basic operation of booting of the computer system, so that you store in the ROM, and if you need some other information which to be permanently stored, so that you store in your secondary memory. But whatsoever in RAM, if you are switching off your computer system and you are not storing that particular, or you are not having any provision to store the data available in RAM, so that will disappear or that will vanish as soon as you switch off your computer system. Now, one more question arises, that if this particular memory or main memory is so closely working with the CPU, so is it part of the CPU? So definitely answer for that is no. CPU is having its own component, that is control unit, ALU, and some very fast registers. But main memory is not part of the CPU. It works very closely with the CPU, and it provides the instruction and data on which the CPU have to perform the operation. Like some necessary programs or the system softwares which are required for the execution of the computer system or specific operation of the computer system are loaded in the main memory. But main memory is not part of the CPU. And as far as RAM is concerned, RAM provides both reading and writing facility. You can as well as read the information stored in the RAM while processing, and you can write also in the RAM. But remember that whatever is available in the RAM, that will be available only till the period the power supply is there. After that, you have to make provision before switching off the computer system to store that particular data. And this RAM is called random access memory because of its feature that it provides facility to access any location in the memory on the basis of the address of that particular location. So if address of that particular location is available, on the basis of that particular address, any specific address data or instruction which is stored on that address can be accessed by that memory. So due to that, it is called RAM. And once again, I tell you that whatever CPU perform, it perform, and once it is having any kind of intermediate result or final result, that result CPU is stored in the RAM, and from RAM the control unit sends its control for the purpose of saving to the secondary memory or for the purpose of displaying to the some output devices. It's all depend on the specific need of the application. And before I move further, one thing again let me clear you, or let me make you understand that whenever we are talking about a specific application, it means any software on which you are working for your specific need. For example, if you are working on a software for the word processing, like if you are going to type, let us say, later and you are going to save it, you are going to format it, then we are talking about that specific application, let us say MS Word, Notepad, on which you are writing that. Similarly, if you are making a presentation, let us say like PowerPoint presentation, so then if you are working on that particular application, that is the specific application for you. So one specific application on which you are working, that particular application is loaded in the memory and it is performing the different kind of operations. So remember it, whenever you are talking about any application, it is having a context, and the context is that on which specific application you are currently working, that should be loaded in the memory, and on that only the CPU will perform the operation. Similarly, if you are doing some kind of social networking or you are surfing on a net, obviously your browser will be loaded, and accordingly that particular will be performing different kind of operations on the basis of a specific URL which you are giving, or a specific kind of instruction which you are giving to perform the operation. So all these activities are very application specific. That's why computer sometimes is known as a very dumb box. It don't know anything. It is not that just you have a computer and you can do anything. For doing anything, you need the software, and that software is also known as application, and that particular application may be as per the specific requirements of your working or as per the need of your specific problem. Now, let me again little bit see about this ROM, read-only memory. Read-only memory is one in which the information is permanently stored. Any computer almost always contain a small amount of read-only memory. Why? Because read-only memory is used for storing a special set of instructions which a computer need to perform when it is starting or booting up. For example, your ROM chip will be often having the BIOS. BIOS is basic input output system program. That particular is used for the booting up of the computer system, and it provides the control instructions for input and output operation or input and output devices. So basically you can say that your motherboard is consist of several components, and those all several components include your CPU as well as different port to connect to different devices, and maybe some kind of sensors are also there, because if you are talking about some devices which are going to communicate with the motherboard wirelessly, so in that case different kind of sensors will be there, and different kind of softwares also will be there for managing those things, like different device drivers will be there, and all those things to be loaded into main memory. But before your computer get ready to load those all things into the main memory, computer should start and it should be in basic working stage. For making a computer from just switch off mode to a basic working stage, the instructions are provided in ROM, and basically the BIOS information is stored in ROM chip. So as far as BIOS is concerned, BIOS is written on ROM. It handles system setup process including the driver loading, operating system booting, managing data flow between the computer's operating system, and attached I/O devices are attached hard disk, or maybe the video adapter, maybe the keyboard, or maybe some other devices which are connected with your computer and which are going to participate in performing different kind of role in solving a specific problem or running a specific application. Now, as far as the concept of volatility and non-volatility is concerned, as I mentioned that this random access memory RAM, RAM, is known as volatile memory because whatever content available in the RAM on which the computer is working or CPU is working, once the power supply is lost, the content of the RAM is disappeared. But ROM is non-volatile because whatever is stored in the ROM, that particular remains permanently. So a CPU continuously interact with the RAM and it interact with the ROM at the time of the booting of the machine. And ROM also can be seen in different categories, or different type of ROMs are available, and those types depend on whether a ROM is just provided by the manufacturer itself, or a ROM is provided in such a way, or it is ready for the programming and using the specific programming tool like ROM writing tool or ROM burning tool, through which you can write your own code for your own specific application. Or for example, suppose you have developed a specific device and that particular device is going to perform some operation and going to be integral part of your system. So in that case, if you need to keep the content of that particular permanently stored, and at the time of execution of the starting or booting process of the operating system, that particular computer system, that particular content should be there, so that you can write on PROM. PROM is programmable read-only memory. It means that can be programmed as per the specific need of your system or manufacturing process of different kind of components which you are developing in your specific application. One more type of ROM is EPROM, that is known as Erasable Programmable Read-Only Memory. It means it is having facility that whatever content is available on the ROM, that can be erased and the program can be rewritten on that. But all these things are used by very specific application development agencies or the organizations which are developing some kind of, let us say, component or devices which are going to perform some specific application, and for that you need to write the permanent code in that, and you want to keep that particular chip of EPROM or PROM in your machine. So it is not much of concern to us, but we should be aware that there are two types of memory in computer system. One is the RAM, in which you are storing the content for the processing purpose. Other is the ROM, which execute those instructions or keep those instructions which are required at the time of the booting of the system itself, and the content of ROM is not going to disappear even if the power supply goes off. In addition to main memory, there are some auxiliary memory or secondary memory which are used for the purpose of massive storage of the data, and they can be seen as hard disk. You are having terabytes of data that can be stored. Earlier floppy disk was being used, but now this is outdated and it is not available at all. Even you are not having a drive for using the floppy disk. CD-ROM. ROM is also gradually disappearing, or it is getting outdated due to the arrival of the pen drive. But these DVDs and ROM are still having existence, and it is a very good component or tool to store the huge amount of data. And similarly, if you are having very large amount of data to store, for example, if you are having a bulk amount of data for the purpose of backup for some specific application, maybe the banking transaction of a banking system for the last several years, so those all things can be stored in the cheaper tool or component that is known as the magnetic tape, in which those data can be stored. And as far as working of the computer system is concerned, it is having combination of several things, as we are gradually repeating those things again and again: input, then processing, then output. So for the input purpose, different input devices are there. So for those devices, in little more you will be knowing in the coming weeks, that what are the different input devices like keyboard, mouse, joysticks and others, and how those devices may be helpful in performing the different kind of processing activity, like different kind of data communication from outside world to the computer, or if you want to provide data to the computer for the processing, how you can provide data with the help of those input devices. And some list of input-output devices you can see or you can note down is the keyboard, the punch card, the mouse, joysticks, touch screen, light pen. These all are used for the purpose of different kind of input or different kind of pointing also. For example, the mouse is also known as a pointing device, as well as it performs the operation of input. Similarly, light pen is used for the purpose of pointing on the specific location of the computer screen, as well as by using light pen you can underline some content, you can write something. So it is used for the both purposes. Similarly, for the purpose of output, you can take the speaker or the different kind of screens. You can take the output device like printer, plotter. These all things are used for the purpose of output. And similarly, different kind of reading. It is not that you are simply typing something and it is going. If you are having some kind of content available, those all things how you can do. For example, if you are having a barcode available for some identification of some product or for the purpose of processing of the billing of some product, so barcode reader can be used for that purpose. And similarly, if you are having some content reader or card reader, so from there that also can be used. And you can see the different kind of applications like metro ticket or metro card, these all are having some kind of input facility. From there the content of your card can be read and accordingly it can be processed. So similarly many more applications you can see. If you are going for the purpose of traffic control or payment of something at some check post, so there also you see that how you can pay the different kind of toll, or you can pay the different kind of content which is required for the purpose of transportation with the help of different cards, and those all things happen with the help of card reader facility. And similarly in medical, if you go, you will find different applications or different kind of input and output devices. For example, X-ray machines, you can see that your X-ray machine is being used for the purpose of performing the X-rays, as well as that is connected to the computer and it is providing the image of that particular X-ray component on the computer. So all these specific devices are used for the specific purposes, and as per our specific need we choose those devices. It is not required to have all the devices for having a simple computer for general purpose or for your own purpose, but that even can be done with the help of your small smartphone. As in the very first session itself I discussed about that even our smartphone can work like a computer. So it's all depend on that what kind of computing requirement we are having and how actually we are going to perform on that particular computing requirement. On the basis of that we can have a specific computer, whether the different kind of I/O devices are concerned, whether the capacity of the CPU processor is concerned, and similarly many more input and output component of the computing device. So with this I conclude this session here. We will meet you in next week. Thank you very much.